Before we dive into today's episode, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, PensionBee. They're a leading online pension provider, making it easier for people, especially single parents like us, to feel confident about saving for retirement. Along with their easy to use app, their podcast can also help you build confidence with your personal finances. The Pension Confident podcast is a monthly show covering pensions, ISAs, mortgages, and more. Listen to the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it on YouTube and in the PensionBee app too. Just remember, as with all investments, your capital is at risk. Thanks again to PensionBee for supporting this episode. Hi, I'm Zoe Desmond, the founder of Frolo, the award-winning app for single parents that features both community and dating modes. And I'm also co-author, along with my wonderful friend Rebecca Cox, that I made through Frolo, of the book How to Be a Happy Single Parent. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Frolo podcast. I'm honoured today to welcome Tosh Brittan, also known as the Divorce Goddess. She's a relationship resilience coach, author, mindfulness teacher, and longtime voice for doing divorce differently. Tosh has over 17 years experience supporting people through relational conflict and separation. She's the author of Kindness for Conflict, A Guide to Separation and Divorce, and her podcast Divorce Goddess ranks in relationship charts across the UK and US. Her tagline is, "Your divorce is about you, not your ex." And she builds frameworks around kindness, emotional resilience, boundaries, and rebuilding. Let's get going. Tosh, a warm welcome to the Frolo podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. And yeah, it's interesting when you hear somebody's introduction sort of play back to you and you're like, wow, yeah, I've been doing this a really long time. So I'm so grateful for you having me on. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for being on. And I hope that intro makes you feel proud of yourself and how much you're doing and how much you've done around this work.
I think it's really interesting because, you know, as single parents, we are, whether you've got older children or younger children, you know, we're all still kind of parenting and they're still our babies. And I think, you know, we're just head down, feet on the ground, getting through this crazy life of ours at the moment, you know, and that's outside of our homes as well. And we kind of forget, and, you know, who we are. And I guess a lot of my work is around self-awareness. So that, you know, leads nicely on to talking about self-awareness and creating that resilience and, you know, knowing you have your own back at the end of the day, which I think is hugely important.
I love that. What a way to get into our conversation, to set ourselves up for the conversation. And it was funny, I was having dinner last night and my friend asked me, what is the one thing that I want to teach my son, Billy, or what's the one thing I want him to kind of go into the world with? And I was like, so to always know that he has his own back. I think that is so crucial. So yeah, just wanted to share that because it was only a mere 24 hours ago. But I would love to start off, as I usually do with these conversations in the Frolo podcast, to give myself and our listeners an opportunity to better understand you and your background and what led you to doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And I love serendipitous moments as well, and conversations and leads, you know, all that lovely stuff, you know, bring on more of it. It's the stuff that makes us laugh and makes, you know, helps us remember that, you know, life is bigger than just like our mind and our thoughts and, you know, so whatever true. Is happening. So we decided to get a divorce in 2011, and I remember us having this conversation, and we were on the tail end of the global kind of financial meltdown anyway. And I remember us just looking at each other, and there was this moment, and I just said, I don't want to fight in this. I want us, if we can, to be kind and to do it differently from our parents. Both our parents have been divorced. And, the effects of divorce, so often people are looking at, the end date and, the final papers. And actually, I don't even think they're called the final papers anymore, and actually looking beyond that, to the effects of divorce going forwards. And it's those occasions when your children are older. It's about co-parenting then, having big life events like parties, weddings, birthdays, funerals, whatever that is. And actually to doing the work from day one. And I think so often we feel so disempowered by something we've never done before. And one of the first things I say to anybody who I work with or anybody who's going through a divorce is that you've never done this hour before. You've never done this day or week or month or year before, right? We don't have a blueprint on how to get through it. And it's about just doing one day at a time, that lovely phrase, just for today. And we kind of decided that, everything was up in the air, and what we could do is just to kind of focus on the children and focus on the fact that we would have to co-parent, much later on as well. And our children were 7 and 9 at the time. And I remember just thinking, okay, so you're going to have to suck it up a bit in all of this. You're going to have to get aware of your thoughts, words, and feelings. And obviously, as we know, we can't do anything about what anybody else is going to say or think or do, but we have absolute ownership of ourselves. And in that mode, becoming more responsive rather than reactive. And we all know what it feels like when we're triggered and we lose it, and you just end up beating yourself up. We're unkind to ourselves. We feel bad. Our bodies feel it as well. And we kind of just give our power away. And actually, that's a lot of energy. It's exhausting being in fight, flight, freeze mode, and especially in fight mode as well. And having that discernment to be more aware is really what I help, the clients I work with going forwards. So it's, going back to my story, it was really like, how do I want to feel? And I talk about kindness, and people are like, kindness in divorce, ha, ha, ha. There's a big kind of, but actually kindness is clever. Yeah, because you're being more strategic, you're being kinder to yourself at the end of the day. And actually, you both got to get through something that you may have never done before. And I think, the temptation is to go into our heads and think, oh my goodness me, I've never done this. And we go into that whole fight, flight, freeze mode, which obviously is not helpful. And the mind's job is to keep us safe. So of course it's going to go, thank you very much, I'm going to take this away and do exactly what I want. But it's still based in the woolly mammoth and the saber-toothed tiger, era. So it hasn't quite caught up yet. So having that self-awareness, and, it's, people are like, how do you get self-awareness? Well, my self-awareness came one day when I dropped my children off at school, and I was really beginning to feel the pressure, what we were going to do. And so often it was other people's thoughts coming back at me going, oh, but what you're going to do, you haven't got a pension, you haven't got this, the house, what do you do? And I remember dropping my children off at school, and I came home and was just sort of making a cup of tea, and I just started crying, and I didn't stop crying for about 6 hours. And I was like, you have got to get yourself sorted. You've got to start investing a small amount of time, even a small amount of time a day, looking after yourself, getting yourself into a best place where you can put your oxygen mask on first. That sounds a bit of a cliche, but put your oxygen mask on first, and then you can best look after your children. And it was that real moment of, because being kind, it is clever, but it's also hard. And anything worthwhile in life that you do it is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I think it's about that commitment. It's about building, small habits and reminding yourself of the importance of, treading your own pathway. It doesn't matter what anybody else's divorce experience was or separation. It's about you doing you. And only you know you. And actually, we know our exes far better as well than we think we do.
And when you had that 6 hour crying kind of release, what was behind that? What was the kind of feeling behind that? The following is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. I want to talk about mental health for a minute. Being a single parent comes with its highs and lows, and as single parents, it's so important to make sure we look after ourselves in the process. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to BetterHelp, the online therapy service that's here to support you every step of the way. With BetterHelp, you can connect with registered therapists from the comfort of your own home. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or just need someone to talk to, they're here to help. Plus, as a Frolo member, you get an exclusive 25% off your first month. Just visit betterhelp.com/Frolo. That's betterhelp.com/Frolo.
Sadness and grief. It was that grief that, we'd lost the sort of family unit. It was just utter sadness. It was, and actually giving myself permission that you don't have to hold it all together yourself, which I think is really, really important. And I was so classic in as much that I'd be like the swan in the school playground. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing it. I can it. And actually underneath, I was literally gasping for air, feet, paddling, just going, oh, how am I going to manage this? So all of this, and when it's a learned experience, I can literally just go, I know what it feels like. I know what this feels like and how, and obviously how you get yourself out of it. But it was a moment.
Yeah. And I think that is because there can be such a range of feelings and emotions and states of, experiences. But the grief, I think, is an important one to highlight, because even if it's not, necessarily the grief of, oh, this was the relationship of my dreams, and I can't believe that the relationship of my dreams has not worked out, because maybe it's clear that that wasn't working for whatever reason, but sometimes it's the grief of the life that you thought you were going to have, of the family unit that you always wanted, of the dreams that you saw for that family one day, and I think it's, that can be really, a really difficult thing for people to come to terms with.
Yeah, completely. And that just reminded me, and it's, I think by then I'd been invited to, a party, and sort of walking in on your own at a party full of couples as well. And it was a bit like, whoa, I've got to really put my big girl pants on,
Yeah.
I always say put your red knickers on, because that's your root chakra and that's your strength and your safety pants.
But it's a pivot from, being used to being part of a couple, part of a team, to, okay, it's, and I think if someone is used to that and is used to being, they're, walking into a party alone, and, they're very comfortable in that world, it's a different than somebody who is, trying to navigate that for the first time.
And I think one of the really interesting things is what I learned was every opportunity of discomfort, or every experience of discomfort, was an opportunity to learn. and to get brave and to learn more about yourself, actually, that you're stronger than you think you are. And that was, I think, out of anything in life, it's really important to be able to go, right, okay, how can I grow from this?
Definitely.
What is the opportunity? So it doesn't feel like everything is being done to you. You actually have a choice, and you have that, that opportunity to, okay, come on, dust yourself off. You can do this. Just go with it. But the tough thing is when you're balancing lots of plays, you just feel like it's something else you've got to think about, and not having the sort of headspace, for it, or that even, just to be able to just carry on walking forwards. I think it's
Yes.
really,
Yeah.
really important. But it's those, it's basically because the mind is like, oh, this is new. Hang on a minute. You're doing this, and you felt worried about it at some point, and now you have to do it. And actually, it's about those small habits, or there's $1 billion industry around very small habits, which can make a really big difference. And it's about habits, just being kind to the mind as well.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about when things are really tough, it is an opportunity for growth, and that is, well, usually it's an opportunity for some kind of a growth, some kind of personal growth, and it's almost the harder it is, the more personal growth there's going to be. So I find that can be a really helpful reminder in the thick of the storm of there is something that's good is going to come out of this. It's going to help, shape me for the better, or be some steep learning curve in some way, or build resilience, or whatever it is. But so tell me about your work, and what does it kind of look like to work with you?
So what I do is I'm not all about, you mentioned my strapline earlier, your divorce is about you, not your ex. So I'm all about building, mainly women, I would say, are my clients, strong women. Although when they first walk in, they go, I'm not strong. And you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I love a challenge. Let's get to work. And it's all about taking off those onion layers of what and who we think we are as a result of a relationship or marriage breakdown. And actually just sort of coming to it, sort of peeling off those layers, that baby skin. Okay, this is the opportunity. And just creating a blueprint. I mentioned earlier about not having a blueprint. We get to a certain age and we think, oh, I can kind of handle this, I can handle that. Life's sort of, I've got eyes on this. And actually, when something comes out of the blue, especially, you're like going, like, oh my goodness me, where do I start? That rug is pulled out from underneath you. So it's about creating really good, strong foundations. And I'm all about intention, setting intentions. How do you want to feel through and beyond? What do you want to feel like? What do you want to feel like at the end? Because there are many examples, but you see the person that got the good settlement, the guilty husband or whatever that was. But if they haven't kind of done the work and done the foundations to build themselves up and recreate, you can just feel the anger. And it's like, life is just so too short to be, holding that anger. And that is what I don't want any of my clients to do, is to hold anger. And, there's that very classic brutal phrase, or, saying, holding anger is like drinking poison, waiting for the other person to die. And I am going to mention here, I did think about whether I bring this up, but I am actually going to mention I've been working with quite a lot of women who have got cancer. And so many of them put their hands over their heart, over their site, and their breast cancer site, which is invariably over the heart. And they go, I know, whenever I think about divorce, my site hurts. And I know this was one of the contributory factors, was my divorce, which is so hard. But you're just saying, okay, so how are we going to work this? How are we going to work to release it? I work quite holistically as well. I'm known to probably be a bit more holistic than maybe others, or a bit more vocal and honest about it. But yeah, and I get lovely lawyers who recommend me clients as well. I work a lot with American clients. I'm probably my holistic leaning. And just build them up and then send them off to walk the next part of their life, knowing that they can go to sleep, knowing they did the right thing, knowing that they were the best person they could be. Because whatever that good thing, that right thing is, it's what is right for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else has done. It's your lived experience with your ex-husband, partner, wife, whoever it is. And it's actually saying, do you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm okay. It doesn't stop the challenges because, we can't do anything about what anybody else is going to come back with. But what we do is have ownership of ourselves. And when you have ownership of yourself through awareness and growing your awareness, which is a toolkit I give clients, it just these layers just drop away. The anger, that working with acceptance. I'm a great believer in the acceptance and commitment therapy and that whole thing about, okay, I think, am I allowed to mention another podcaster on here?
Yeah, of
Big,
course.
huge, like American podcaster called Mel Robbins.
Yes,
And her
amazing.
book, Let Them, that is just one of my mantras is just you do you. That's what you have control over.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with a nightmare, then I've got some advice. Is you can replace. I saw this on a funny kind of Instagram reel that an Irish person was doing in a funny Irish way. I might be a bit biased about funny Irish people, but
go for it.
So they replaced "let them" with it's a word that begins with F and ends with K, and so sometimes it can be the same principle, but in a. So if that's more helpful in some situations, it might feel like it's more fitting.
Yeah. I'm okay if my clients want to swear as well, because I think there is a place for swear words, and if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah,
and
whatever works.
Yeah, completely. There was a really there is a kind of like I guess a mantra, a little phrase that I kind of share with clients, and it's like, just put, when you're about to have a meeting, whether that's online mediation or you're gonna, talking about whatever, is have this mantra in your, like, you will not have my anger. Do not give anybody else your anger. And it's hard. It's really hard when we're triggered, but that's like you giving away all your lovely energy. And what I kind of is, I describe as sort of like you being in your lighthouse. And when your ex or there's somebody in your life that's triggering you, it's like they're drawing you down into the bushes below the lighthouse, and you go down there and you get a little bit lost with your torch and their drama and their stuff. And, I think we were talking earlier, there's so much of this going on at the moment in the world.
Yes.
And even those people you've known for a long time, it's like, what is going on? So being really aware when you are being drawn down and your energy is being taken out of you and your lighthouse down into the bushes, and you're down there with your torch and you're like, get back in your lighthouse. And that's like a real, I'm quite bossy as well, with my lovely clients.
I'm sure it's needed sometimes, but so this week we put out a post on the Frolo Instagram page about co-parenting with a narcissist. And that post got such strong engagement and saves and shares, and really, really kind of heartbreaking comments as well about what some people have been experiencing for years and what their kids are experiencing because of the situation. And So I'm just thinking about somebody in that type of situation where, because on one hand, it's, you know, we've got to stay in our lighthouse and not, you know, let anger be the thing. And especially when it's so scary to think of, and I think a lot of us get that paranoia of, oh my God, is this level of stress going to make me sick? You know, is this going to do something? So just thinking about people in that situation, which it can be so all consuming and stressful.
100%.
And how do you deal with clients of yours who are navigating that sort of dynamic where nothing is what it seems, they can't trust them, it's like gaslighting, it's coercive control, it's like the kids are subjected to it? How can someone feel empowered and in their own, in that dynamic?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So for me, it's going back to that. You can't stop what's going on. Okay. And the sadness, it just makes me so sad that, you know, human beings can be so utterly horrible to other people, especially parents and their children as well. That is the bit that just makes me really sad. But, you know, when you mentioned the word trusting, you know, this is when, and I do love my American coaches. So there's an amazing coach called Byron Katie, and she talks about the analogy of the backyards. So you have your backyard, your ex has their backyard, maybe there's somebody else involved and they got their backyard. And it's noticing when you're thinking, you're speaking, and you are doing actions which puts you in their backyard. Because where are you out of? You're out of your backyard. And it's about even just small check-ins with yourself every day, like setting an alarm in the morning when you wake up, lunchtime, afternoon. How am I feeling? What do I need? Yeah. Look after yourself. When we look after ourselves and we have that, you know, that self-care, and it doesn't, you know, there are so many easy, simple, I put them on my Instagram as well, practices where you can just check in. How am I doing? What do I need? You know, how can I best look after myself? Because if you're dealing with that level of stress, you can't change that. What you have absolutely a choice over is you making time for yourself during the day, even if it's just like a minute. And I know it all sounds very, very like we want the three immediate magic wishes, you know, to make this all good. But literally, I know, and I have done it myself, you set alarms. When that alarm goes off, you straight away check in with yourself. You know, I think there's an app called Stop now. And Stop is an acronym. Acronym, that's the word dropped out of my head, that I use regularly with everybody. And that is, you know, stop, take a breath. So that's your belly breathing. That's the baby breathing that we used to do before we all got stressed, and we only breathe into the top third of our chest now. And it's breathing into your belly. So when you breathe into your belly, is literally is imagining when you're breathing in, you're blowing up a balloon in your belly. And when you breathe out, the balloon contracts, and that is belly breathing. And it feels a bit back to front. This is how like crazy the world's got, right? We've even forgotten how to self-soothe ourselves and trigger the body's natural relaxation response, otherwise known as the parasympathetic response. So and then you proceed, but it's just those little check-ins. How am I doing? What do I need? Yeah. That is what you do have control over. That, and I know it feels like you just want this nightmare to go away, but the more you get back into your power, back into your life, even just with small easy to integrate practices, that is where you can begin, and getting out your head and getting into your body, right? Get back into your body. How does my body feel? What can I do to look after myself? Yeah. And I just want to share one, and this is for children as well, that you can use. And, you know, years ago I used to teach in schools mindfulness up to year sixes, and also teenagers as well. And it's taken from the acronym HALT. Dr. Simon Willard created HALT, which is hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And I was working with some people, so we said, oh, actually I'm feeling a bit ill. Why isn't ill in there? So it became HELT, and I've created this sort of acronym HELT. And it's having on your fridge door or on your notice board at home, right? Because when you're all going through it, it is, and especially if you've got children as well, if you can say to the children, because sometimes the children they can't find the words to tell you how they're feeling, but you want to know, they want you to know, and you just want to remove a layer of stress, of, whatever that is. And just so they know, and you can just go if you sense, because parents know, and their babies, their big babies even, are feeling a little bit out of sorts. And just say to them, just tell me how you're feeling. And in that moment, if they can, hungry, angry, ill, lonely, tired, they know they've told you, they know that you know. And then there's this beautiful sort of opening or opportunity for that kind of layer of how do I find my words to tell mum how I feel and everything else. And it's very powerful. It's a very powerful tool to use, just to
Yes, I
check
like
in
that. I
and
really like that.
how are you doing, and how am I doing? What do I need? Like what are your children need before they go to school? I'm all up for 30-second hugs. It's something I used to do, and my children, they used to go, Mom, and before they went out the front door, I'd be like, no, 30-second hug.
I know. I have to negotiate them these days. Oh well. Speaking of kids, I've got the school run beckoning shortly,
Yeah,
so I want to make
yeah.
sure that we get in some kind of key things. But what would you say are the biggest struggles people come to you with? What are the most common struggles that your clients are experiencing?
Managing anger and not and being reactive rather than responsive. And it's how to help clients who are stuck in this nightmare, and they don't feel they've got any breathing space. They can't feel they get out of it. And it's just about, finding those opportunities for them to grow out of this, say phoenix, like out of the ashes, and really sort of to believe in themselves again. And, especially I mentioned strong women, and strong men as well, but I mainly get strong women. Just to know that they are still that person inside, and it's not forever this time. The mind's charging away because it wants to keep you safe, but actually this period of time is not forever. And if you can do one day well, just for today, I love that expression, just for today, and do it well, and just then that you have done the best by you and your children, and whoever is making life just dreadful, that's on them. That is on them. And I know it's in with you, but you be that parent for your children that they can rely on, who's looking after themselves, who's being that safe place, because that one parent out of two parents that is safe, whatever the other parent is saying about you, you do you. You don't trash the other parent. You be there, you be strong, you be in your power, you be healthy, you teach your children good habits. Yeah. And even if you go to bed crying because it's been so hard to do that, get a comfy bed with a nice mattress top and make your bed comfortable so
Love
you
that.
can, and cozy at the end of the day. So I'm going to go to my safe place.
Yeah.
My children still call my bed the mothership, because that's where they
Oh,
used to just come and land and have a chat, and they're still
yeah.
like, oh Mum, let's go and chat on the mothership if they got something going on. So no.
That is such brilliant advice. Make your bed really cozy, get the best duvet, mattress topper,
Yeah,
pillows. Yeah.
yeah, make your space somewhere nurturing and feeling safe, that's yours at the end of the day, and cozy.
Yeah. So, last question, Tosh. So, for you in your sort of personal journey from, getting divorced and the separation, and then to this work that you're doing, and everyone that you've helped, how has it all changed you as a person or as a mom, or has it?
I think it's humbled me enormously. I'm always just so in awe of the level of human resilience and strength in the face of like unkindness and adversity. And I'm so humbled by the strength and so many, you know, people that I work with, and they just, and the surprise, that they, their own surprise that they still have this. And it is humbleness. It's just like and I just think if we can all be kinder first to ourselves, importantly, even that just changes, I don't know what's going on in the world at the moment, but just choose to be a kind person, whatever that is for you. And that begins with yourself. But yeah, I would just say humbleness at the level of unkindness that humans, but actually we don't have to join that as well. We don't have to drop ourselves into that. We can, hold that commitment to ourselves and to our children, to show our children that out of tough stuff, you can still be a good person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to lean into that, builds such like self-trust and self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
I think the more you can build on that, especially in the face of adversity, it's a really empowering thing to know that you have that in your toolkit. And, that kind of Michelle Obama quote, when they go low, we go high. I think if we can all kind of keep that in mind.
That's the choice. That's the choice we all have, even when we don't feel we have it. We do. Yeah, thank you.
Tosh, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me today, and for sharing your story and your wisdom and this really heartfelt conversation, which feels very kind of connected. And yes, please tell us, where can people find you?
Well, the Divorce Goddess podcast is going to be, it's still out there, so lots on there. I'm on Instagram as Divorce Goddess, and I'm just in the process of rebranding a website and releasing the Divorce Goddess method. So I'm really excited about that. So that is primarily the main places where you're going to find me.
Thank you so much. It's been so lovely to properly meet you remotely, but
I know.
lovely all the same.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Frolo podcast. And that's a wrap for this week. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, then I have one small favor to ask. Please can you take a minute to subscribe to the Frolo podcast and give us a rating and review? This really helps other single parents who might benefit from it find us. The Frolo app, which is fully user verified for user safety, is available on the Google Play Store and the App Store, and you can find out more info and download links at www.frolo.com, or follow us on Instagram at Frolo app. And you can purchase your copy of our book, How to Be a Happy Single Parent, at all the major book retailers. Until next time, have a great week.